On behalf of the Center of Civic Engagement and Community Service at the American University of Beirut, I am delighted to have this ceremony bringing in more than 100 NGOs working with the public sector and having direct interface with our AUB community, and for the first time an NGO fair that has been in direct coordination with the USG. So we're bringing in the NGO fair on both campuses simultaneously. I am very delighted that this NGO fair is under the patronage of the Minister of Social Affairs, Mr. Abu-Asi, and our first keynote speaker is our President, Philip Khoury. And our keynote speaker is our President, Fadl Khoury, under his leadership and his vision, driving AUB's social impact to a higher level, and its support that makes our work possible. Please, President.
For a minute, I was thinking maybe I could be the board chair and leave the administration to someone else. Minister of Social Affairs, Mr. Pierre Abu-Asi, Secretary General of Université Saint-Joseph, Fuad Maroun, representing Father Salim Nakash, honored guests of the NGO community, head of the NGO, should I remember your name? Rabia Shibli. Ladies and gentlemen, faculty, staff, and students of AUB. Seriously, Rabia has worked enormously since before we started to stitch together the common mission of the universities to enhance our focus on service. I think since my first month when we visited as our first encounter official with another university leadership with Per Salim Nakash, we have shared this vision of enhanced social engagement for our community as a whole. And our community, by that I mean our students, our faculty, and our staff, in order to make a greater difference. And in that vein, it's a great privilege to welcome you to the 2017 NGO Fair, which is held in partnership for the first time with our friends and our brothers and sisters at the Université Saint-Joseph. It's also the very first time that our scholarship students have been invited to showcase their activities under the Transformative Leadership Program of Dr. Shibli, alongside the range of NGOs and agencies who we're very honored to host on our campus for this key event in the humanitarian nonprofit calendar of Lebanon. Student community service projects are on display, and these are the culmination of a structured civic engagement and leadership program that prepares graduates to be not only professionals, but leaders and agents of social change in Lebanon and around the world. We call it Scholarship Plus, where students engage in extensive volunteering opportunities, workshops and training programs, internships in community serving organizations, and when ready, community-based projects. Students form their own teams. They pick themes, they decide on areas of implementation, they do stakeholders assessments, they do needs assessments, select suitable partners from the public or private sector. They design and develop proposals, they set budgets, and they implement the project. They are truly being prepared to be professionals and leaders through this experience. All this with full autonomy, under the supervision of the Center for Civic Engagement and Community Service, and in close partnership with the relevant funding agency, be it public or private. In many ways, what each project team is doing is that they are recreating the internal structure of an NGO. But where a traditional NGO seldom has the time to stop and reflect, to think outside the box, because they're so busy implementing their agenda, our students have that luxury. And they come forward with astonishing ideas, which are daring, strategic, and sustainable, and underwritten and mentored by AUB professors whose goal is to empower their ideas. Because our scholars come from the most underrepresented areas of this region, and indeed the most underserved areas of Lebanon, They draw from their own experiences in life to determine their project choice. With the Center for Civic Engagement and Community Services guidance, this results in a level of authenticity that would make many humanitarian interventions proud. Our students know the specificity of their region better than anyone. And when they graduate, most continue running these projects they've worked so hard to set up, and they go on to become their foci in life. I'm going to turn to our friend Fuad Maroun and salute the Head Start, which University Saint Joseph has over AUB. Namely, they make this a requirement for all students to engage in community service learning before they graduate. I believe this is the future of the college experience. As we move from college education to a college experience, service is going to be an essential part of it. If tomorrow's generations are going to learn from the challenges of today's. AUB is committed to the same level of commitment required to make this part of the college experience. To aim for across-the-board civic engagement requirements as part of the curriculum that our provost and Department of Education and deans are looking to revitalize. Not just for our scholars, but indeed to become part of faculty and staff life. We all must serve those who are less fortunate. Many of our students are way ahead of us. They already volunteer to help those less fortunate. But we want to make this a hallmark of our education as it's already become a hallmark of USJ's education. They say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Well, this is a good kind of flattery. Eventually, you will not want to enroll here unless you want to give something back. Whatever your means, whatever your capacity, whatever your background, whether that's in the business sector, in medicine, in engineering, we want to mentor, to generate, to develop, and to support the next generation of servant leaders of society. This is not a risk-free approach. The last thing we want to do is to devalue our outstanding civic engagement programs by forcing it to expand without thinking strategically how we can build on its strengths. This requires constructive and reflective and strategic thinking from all of us. Fortunately, the answer, if challenging, is within sight. It is the imperative of putting theory into practice. It's about creating facts on the ground, projects and communities that make a difference. That's what we already do through Scholarship Plus, but if we can broaden this impact, it will create ever greater waves of service and engagement. Think of the generation that we grew into in the 50s and 60s and 70s when the government tried to inculcate the idea of a civic view of society, of civic nationalism, and it was one course that you took in first intermediate, and then you went back to your studies. We want to do something different at the universities. We believe that universities are the key in this area. They should be the engine with hundreds or thousands of young people passing through our doors, feeling empowered, being handed the tools, the knowledge, and the belief that they are the ones who can make a difference, who can rebuild marginalized and troubled societies, starting here in Lebanon, but yes, throughout the Arab world. And we don't need to look further than the Ghata project for evidence of success. This was devised initially through a collaboration between the civic engagement group and Nurosh Blad's group, and tomorrow I guess we'll go and get a hands-on look at it, as a cheap, easily sourced temporary school building that was designed by our Department of Architecture and our faculty in the Maroun Saman Faculty of Engineering and Architecture. It began with one unit in an informal settlement in the south of Lebanon. The second was erected on campus, and then they were deployed throughout Lebanon. It was fully student-led. They didn't wait for a green light from the administration. They didn't wait for a pat on the back. They didn't send it for publication. They just went out and implemented it. Now, of course, as a university president, we need to push for publication, and certainly we want to push for people to patent things, but this is an ideal example of a cheap, reproducible, effective technology that can make such a difference. Now there are 9 Ghata schools in the Bekaa, each serving 700 refugee students, and there are dozens of other projects serving thousands more needy or disadvantaged citizens around the country. We don't want to replace the NGOs or the government. Our role lies in our ability to pilot the most appropriate, affordable solutions like Ghata to engage communities in design, development, and intervention. If successful, they grow by themselves based on the community's needs and willingness to scale up. With the greatest respect to the work of the NGOs, this particular phase of smart piloting is not their repertoire. They are great translators of these initial ideas into public effect and public policy, but this is the kind of partnership, the kind of innovation that, frankly, universities excel at. Nor are the NGOs known for blending with different sectors outside their focus. This should be the strength of the academy. You can find interdisciplinary collaboration in our lifeblood. Engineers working with biologists and public health specialists, medics with art historians and nutritionists. We should be about allowing boundaries to be crossed and encouraging collaboration. While our counterparts in the US or Europe might see the university's civic engagement as the icing on the cake, here it's an absolute necessity for our societies to thrive, to survive, to grow, and to excel. This is a region that's been torn by war, communities scattered, towns and whole cities razed to the ground, governments of uncertain definition for uncertain duration, of uncertain purpose. So this is not a replaceable element. The government needs the universities to step up, the people need the universities to step up, and the NGOs need the universities to step up. So I don't think we have a choice but to step up. There are millions upon millions of the most vulnerable and marginalized people right here in Lebanon, in the Arab world. How do you deal with that? Where do you start? We start here with our own resources, building them up piece by piece and sharing the significance of our actions, our critical thinking, our sensitivity to context and to specificity. This is where that happens, at the universities, in the civically engaged university space. This is where empowerment begins. And here, I have to say, is where citizenship begins. In my view, the government has 2 areas very different, very complementary, where real citizenship can begin. In the armed services, where people are inculcated daily with the concept of service to the nation, and in the universities, where they're inculcated daily the idea of thought towards a more progressive nation. If we're going to successfully build a Lebanon of civil society and civic engagement, of laws, and of adherence to the greater good, it starts here, in our view. This is where empowerment begins. This is where real citizenship really begins. So what today shows us in this critical dialogue between civically engaged academics and students in the NGO community is that we can succeed, we can overcome the challenge. That's exactly what we'll do. And we're not the only people in the world who have thought in this way or have pushed this agenda of civic engagement. In 1988, when he was nominated to be President of the United States, the first President, George Bush, talked about 1,000 points of light. And what he was talking specifically about was, even in the most powerful government and in the mightiest nation in the world, the need for civic engagement to grow, to be from a groundswell, from the people up, starting with the academic institutions. I am confident that in today's environment, AUB and the University of Saint Joseph will not fail the people or the government of Lebanon with the level of our commitment, our civic engagement, and our determination, not just our desire, our determination to make a difference. That is what we will do, and we will leave the others to match us in their effort, in their commitment, and their engagement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Khoury, for such a inspirational speech, and I believe we're going to use this speech for our mission statement in the center. Now going back to the paper that I prepared, that we're honored to welcome you to the NGO Fair, which is organized under the patronage of His Excellency, Minister of Social Affairs, Mr. AUB-USJ, who has graciously joined us today for the opening ceremony. As Dr. Khoury mentioned, for the first time this annual fair has been organized in partnership with the St. Joseph University, and we are extremely privileged that both President Dr. Khoury and Dr. Salim Dakash, who is today is represented by Mr. Maroon, the Secretary General Fuad Maroon, will be addressing us on this significant occasion. Please join us. Welcome.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, I shall be representing the Rector of St. George's University, Professor Salim Dakash, at this opening ceremony of the AUB-USJ NGO Fair 2017. Father Dakash sent his greeting to the Assembly, and particularly to his brother, President Khoury. He regrets for not being able to join due to a previous commitment. It is a privilege to be part of this event, which sees the two oldest and most prestigious universities in Lebanon team up around a topic of utmost importance and necessity for the country and its youngster citizenship. In his address on the occasion of St. Joseph University's Patrons' Day, entitled St. Joseph University and its engagement towards citizenship, the rector quoted a journalist from Al-Nahar newspaper, Mr. Jihad al-Zain, who wrote, I quote, "It's rare to find an experience in which universities led the way to the creation of a nation, as was the case for Lebanon. Nations are usually built following revolutions or wars, and then these newly built nations create universities. In Lebanon, the framework that led to the birth of the country was built by Université St. Joseph and the American University of Beirut." End of quote. As much as this statement makes us proud, it should be seen as a permanent reminder for both our institutions of our responsibility in maintaining and nurturing with our students, faculty and staff the spirit that led to the birth of our nation. On a previous occasion here at AUB, we discussed the civic engagement actions taken in our universities, and we discovered the richness of these initiatives that aims to field experience, empowerment and awareness, to form better people who would positively impact the public and private sectors, and help, I quote here Father Polderback, former Superior General of the Society of Jesus, and help build up just social, economic and political structures that preserve our common humanity. This is in line with one of the characteristics of the Jesuit education, which is, and I quote again Father Polderback, eminently practical, focused on providing students with the knowledge and skills to excel in whatever field they choose, but is not merely practical, since it concerns itself also with questions of values, with educating men and women to be good citizens and good leaders, concerned with the common good and able to use their education for the service of faith and promotion of justice. Or, as often repeated by Father AUB, also a former Superior General of the Society, to succeed in transforming students into women and men for others. These characteristics do reflect in the charter of USJ, which states that the Université St. Joseph does not accept to be at the exclusive service of a social class or an ethnic community. As it belongs to a certain society, it hopes it can be the ferment of this society, and that participation is a necessity not only for the atmosphere of the university, but also for the type of society it intends to promote. The practical application of these characteristics correspond to the detailed actions that were cited by President Khoury in his speech, actually. The event that we are launching today was mainly cited in the Rector's address on the occasion of the University's Patrons' Day as an example of the actions taken by the University for promoting its engagement towards citizenship. The Rector presented this fair as a true act of citizenship education, an education that we see to be innovative, free, entrepreneurial and realistic. Students run away from moralizers and from concepts that are disconnected from reality, but seize all opportunities that make their civic engagement, allow them to make a difference, and help them forge their destiny on each crossroad. End of quote. This event also aims to strengthen the partnership with active NGOs that will give our students a broader access to field engagement, extramuros and encourage them to create students' club to promote their cause intramuros. I will wrap up my intervention by expressing our gratitude to all the persons involved in the organization of this event and congratulating the students for their innovative projects and their dedicated involvement. I hope that this fair will be one of many common projects to be held between the AUB and USG for the good of our communities and our country. Thank you.
Our third speaker for the day is Mr. Philippe Lazzarini, UN resident and humanitarian coordinator, who is our constant guest for this NGO fair. Please.
Thank you very much. I don't know yet if it is a constant guest, since it is only the second time I'm coming to this NGO fair, but maybe in 5 or 10 years' time I would appreciate to be considered as a constant guest to the fair. So let me start, Minister Pierre Abouati, Dr. Horé, ladies and gentlemen here in this room. I have to say it's a real pleasure to be back today. When I came last year, I was in Lebanon only for a few months, and already at that time I was impressed by the vibrant, diverse and creative civil society here in the country. And I have to say that over the year, having visited so many local NGOs, initiatives and youth here in the country, I could feel, the real transformative potential, the youth in this country have. This is not a real surprise for me, because it was not the first time I came in Lebanon. I was here already at the end of 89, 90. I was a very young ICRC delegate, came here for the last year of the civil war, and I was absolutely impressed to see the volunteer of the Lebanese Red Cross, who under the most difficult circumstances certainly were the one providing to the population the most needed and critical services during that time. And I have to say that this spirit of solidarity and of sharing is also felt today under different circumstances, obviously, but also at a time of difficulties here in the country. Civil society organization, as you know, main partner of the United Nations in Lebanon. They play a vital role when it comes to understand what the real needs are, and they play a vital role in terms of delivery of the services. You know that since the beginning of the Syrian crisis, together with the government, the civil society, the UN agencies, we have developed an ambitious response plan, and this plan to serve the refugees and the Lebanese host communities can be implemented only through the local network, the civil society being the real backbone of the response here in the country. And today, when we look at the fair, when we look at the wealth of activities being developed, whether we talk about the human rights, clean environment, gender-based violence, humanitarian assistance, legal reform, good governance, interreligious dialogue, all these are different aspects, mirrors of what Professor Murray was defining as being the beginning of citizenship. Being a citizen is being aware of what the public good is all about and to look at what our contribution could be. Now, let's go to some, because as a UN bureaucrat, I always need to give one or two statistics. And one of them comes from the Human Development Report on Youth in the Arab World. When the youth in the Arab region were asked a few years ago about their perception on the economy and the security, in Lebanon, more than 60% of the youth aged between 15 and 30 years old believe that the situation can only worsen. No real fate on the near future of the country. It's quite staggering, I mean, when you think about this strong negative perception. But one would think that if you have such a negative perception, I mean, youth would, in that case, be the driver of change. To, I mean, saying, if that's my belief, I will dream about something else when it comes to Lebanon. But one would be struck. That's not. This is not the case. Only 10% maybe of the Lebanese believe that they can play a role to reverse this negative perception. And basically that means that among the educated youth in country, the primary objective becomes to immigrate and to go somewhere else rather than, I mean, to contribute for better Lebanon. Now, we are all aware about, I mean, the challenges the country is confronted with. Some challenges belong to the country, some challenges are intrinsically related, I mean, to the situation in the country. But these challenges can only be addressed by youth, by the youth, by the people who are educated through, I mean, places like AUB or Université Saint-Joseph. And, you know, yesterday I went to Baalbek, and I went to a conference on women engagement in politics and in public life. And we keep saying that the woman is the most underrepresented group in the decision making and in public life. But there is another group which is highly underrepresented again, which are the youth. I give you again one statistic, and MPs in this room, please forgive me, but the average age of an MP in Lebanon today is 67 years old, which basically the more than 1 million, 1.5 million of youth between the age of 14 and 25, I mean, can hardly feel that they are represented in the decision making here in the country. So let me conclude by talking about, the SDGs, because obviously, if we have very little belief or negative perception about the near future, we need to reverse it. And I would expect, some of you might have heard about the Sustainable Development Goal. You might have heard that for 2 years, member states and civil grassroots organizations, civil society, have agreed that about what the world should look like in 2030, in 15 years. And basically we have challenged all the countries and their own civil society to start to think about how do you want to look like, and how do you make sure that we are living in an inclusive society, leaving no one behind, everybody having access to education, having access to health, access to job opportunities, and also making sure that the society and the country you will leave behind to your children are stronger environmental countries. These are the SDGs, and I invite you, for those who are not yet familiar, to visit, since we have now 90 different stores in this fair, also the United Nations one, to see what the SDG is all about and how you can reappropriate this agenda for Lebanon. This is all about the country you want, the country you are dreaming of, and to try to reverse the perception I was referring to, and to show what a priori sounds to be completely impossible, I mean, is more than possible. And you can do it only if the youth in this room with education you have also responsibilities, and the future of this country lies in your hand, and you have the responsibility to promote this better future. So, thank you very much, and I hope it will become later on.
Our fourth speaker, and I think with more statistics to come, is Mr. Saper Fotovar, the country manager at the World Bank. Please join me in welcoming you.
I think I'm a little bit short for this podium. Hope everyone can see me here. Your Excellency, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, allow me to apologize on behalf of Mr. Farid El-Haj, who is the country director of Lebanon for the World Bank and could not attend this ceremony, and I have the honor of reading his speech on his behalf. Thank you. Good day. It is with great pleasure that I join you today in the annual AUB-USJ NGO Fair to recognize and promote the excellent work that hundreds of local and international NGOs have carried out throughout Lebanon, as well as to encourage youth to volunteer and give back to their communities. Indeed, during the past 3 years, and thanks to the support from the State and Peacebuilding Fund, SPF, of which Sweden is a contributing member, the World Bank partnered with the Ministry of Social Affairs, as well as with close to 30 NGOs, with the implementation of Lebanon's National Volunteer Service Program, NDSP, one of the World Bank's flagship youth programs in the Middle East and North Africa region. In the first phase, the NDSP financed around 50 volunteering projects, which benefited over 3,000 Lebanese youths, aged 15 to 24. Today, and thanks to the success and impact that NDSP is having on the ground, I'm pleased to announce the launching of the second phase of NDSP, which will also be financed by the SPF and will seek to improve social stability and service delivery in the most vulnerable Lebanese communities hosting Syrian refugees. The second phase of NDSP is one of the most innovative youth projects in the MENA region. The Lebanese youth aged 15 to 29 and Syrian refugee youth in the targeted communities will be able to volunteer together in their communities. In addition, the second phase of the NDSP recognizes that youth face many different and oftentimes overlapping challenges and will provide participating youth a package of services that includes soft skills training for improved employability, as well as psychosocial support for improved mental health awareness. As part of this second phase, I'm delighted to be here with you today to invite NGOs to submit their expressions of interest to implement innovative volunteering projects that help to mitigate the immediate and potentially long-lasting impact of Syria crisis on Lebanon. The ongoing crisis in Syria has taken a toll on millions of lives, with an estimated 11 million Syrians having fled their homes since the outbreak of civil war in March 2011. In Lebanon alone, the number of registered and unregistered Syrian refugees has reached over 1.5 million, or 1/3 of the country's population. Those communities hosting Syrian refugees are struggling to meet basic needs and face rising and deteriorating intercommunal social tensions. At the World Bank, we believe that youth volunteering is an effective and efficient mechanism to alleviate some of the increasing and utmost needs facing both Syrian refugees and their Lebanese host communities. Volunteering puts youth at the center of development and empowers them to become agents of change by enabling them to identify and find solutions to the most pressing problems affecting them and their own communities. In doing so, volunteering helps to diffuse tensions by bringing youth together around shared goals, thus building more cohesive societies through citizenship development. Volunteering is also believed to improve the employability of participating youth by enabling them to participate in unpaid work. I therefore urge you, representatives from NGOs, as well as youth, to participate in the second phase of NBSP. Lebanon needs you, and we all have the responsibility to give back to our communities. Also, the NBSP logo says, together we make a difference. Thank you very much.
مسك الختام مع راعي هذا الحفل كلمة معالي وزير الشؤون الاجتماعية الأستاذ كيف عاصم.
I've been trying for the last 3 weeks to know which language I'm supposed to speak, and nobody was able to tell me. So you can imagine my confusion now that I discovered I have to speak in English. But yesterday when I spoke with my advisors and said that we don't know which language we're going to speak, they asked me, do you know what you're going to say? I said, no. So they said, it doesn't matter, then you can speak English, whichever language you want. It's not that important after all. So my volunteers, advisors, very underpaid, prepared a speech. So they advised me to start by thanking, by greetings. Dr. Fadlu, thank you for this gathering, for the initiatives. Mr. Fuad Aoun, representing DFG, Philip, dear friend, Simon, and Rabia. Thanks for inviting me and for this gathering. And one of the reasons why I'm speaking English is I'm sure that you're going to appreciate and can make an effort to speak the language you like, and I'm sure you're going to appreciate when I inflict damages the language of Shakespeare and James Joyce, because you come from the SG, of course. Then there are a few points that I thought are very important to say. Yeah, statistics. You're not the only one. Studies prove that volunteering improves the well-being and health for the body. So if they drink, if they smoke, you don't know what. Apparently it's a good thing for their health. In Canada, in 2013, 44% of people aged 14 and above have done their volunteering work. I'm not sure how relevant it is, but you count those who shovel as well, you know. And most importantly, we should search the volunteer from within. I don't know what it means, but it sounds interesting. And like our society, one group, solidarity, etc. You know. And then I have to thank I don't know why for and yeah, there's one thing very much important I discovered, that the volunteer has to be ready to answer the call when it rings. So all this, you know it. You're here. I'm going to speak about volunteering in my words, in fact, and in my heart. Why is volunteering important in our society? In fact, volunteering is very much important in any society, and maybe in our society, because youth and people in general lack confidence in the state. I represent the state, I know what I'm talking about. And this is very much dangerous. So the risk to become passive, okay, or to leave, what Philip said, and he's right. And in that case, the only way to bring back their interest in the society is to involve them, to push them to be involved, or at least not to forbid them when they show any intention and desire to get involved in the cause of their society. This is very much important. This is how we transform them from what they are now and I'm very sad to say, from residents to citizens. Most people in Lebanon now are residents. They live in Lebanon. They have the Lebanese passport. Are they really citizens? I'm not sure. And we have been prorogating the mandate of the parliament for the last 8 years, and maybe some people are trying to do it again. So what kind of citizenship is it when people cannot have the right to go and vote and choose those who represent them, even if they are 67 home? Okay? So this is the main point, this is the key point. Whenever people volunteer, they're going to give us new ideas. And they won't feel anymore that you have to survive in this society. They're going to shape the society the way they want it. And then it's their society. And they're going to live in it, and they're going to make it alive. And we had a serious problem at this level. But the solution is there. Unfortunately, when I was coming here, I was so jazzed, because we had yesterday the same idea of having this huge gathering on December 5th, the International Day of Volunteering. To have this kind of gathering, exactly so, with a small conference, but mainly with the NGOs, and bring people to go and push them to be really volunteers. So it's crucial, in fact. It's not a luxury. It's crucial for our society. What can the Ministry of Social Affairs do in this respect? Nothing. Nothing without you. A lot together. Okay? So, if the three of us, ourselves, yourselves, and the guys outside, create this triangle, we can do something. Okay? Because we have this NTSP, the National Program, and I do thank the representative of the World Bank for being here. Of course, we have this program. It's an excellent program. It was selected the best, I guess, in the world.
The 19 best programs in the world.
So, it's an efficient program. It's a very structured program. There is a lot of confidence with the World Bank because we are transparent, because we are efficient. But I told you about this. We went in Tripoli maybe 2 months ago, and there was this beautiful program because the youth, they present for a project. If the project is adopted, we manage them, we coach them. These are new friends. We coach them and we give them the means, but forget about the means, because otherwise tomorrow I'm going to have 1,000 people asking for thousands of dollars. It's not the most important. It is important, yeah. But we coach them and they realize their project. Then they take a selfie with the ambassador, with the minister myself, and then most of them disappear. And that's really bad. Because they have the skills, they have the will. We have to go beyond and create this, what I call, army of volunteers. Those who graduate from these programs, they have to choose any kind of NGO or field of action they want. And we should all together, I mean, it's our job as Minister of Social Affairs to direct them towards these NGOs. So volunteering has to start somewhere, has to have some kind of, what do you say? Wake up, what was the word? Yeah. Coaching, yeah, and then they have to go on volunteering as well. It shouldn't start at a certain point, and they choose. We can advise them which NGOs are serious NGOs, okay? But they would have to go volunteering in the field they want. Our program lacks, in fact, has a second problem, which is 1524. I think it's too short. Okay, why 1524? Dear friend, we should extend it. I know that Mali is negotiating 1529, which is good enough. But why not the retired people? Why not? They are really well with their experience and with their time. They have a lot of time, they have a lot of experience, so we should include them as well in our action, in all fields. Okay? So our ministry is ready for this, and we are willing for this, because these three elements of the volunteer work, in fact, should be the basics and the basis of our values in our society. First, it's freedom. You don't volunteer if you're not free. you're not a free human being, say free man or woman or whatever, if you're not free, you cannot volunteer. Okay? If you're not willing, you do not volunteer. Okay? And if you're not turned towards the other, you would never volunteer. You go for search for a job or whatever it is. So if we implement these three elements in our youth, in our society, we would be putting the seeds of a sane and healthy society for the future. And I am definitely determined to go on in this direction. So consider that somewhere in Badal, in the Ministry of Social Affairs, you have a friend, you have a partner, from now till we achieve our goals. I thank you.
These were great speeches today, and I totally agree with the Minister that the golden trinity is between, if we can have the triangle between higher education and academia, and I think we have the commitment today by two of the most leading institutions in the region, AUB-USJ, and with the local stakeholders, whether it's the governments, municipalities, and with our targeted communities. So if we're able to put this triangle together, I think we'll be able to do the upgrading, the development, the relief, reconstruction, and recovery that all our region is in dire need for. Before closing this event, I would like to thank Ms. Lina Abu Faraj from the Center for Public Engagement and Ms. Gloria Abdu from USG for all their efforts and all the NGOs who are represented today with us. And I'd like to invite you all to join us for some refreshments in the reception outside. Thank you so much.